Hello and welcome here to TalkFCB and welcome back to the channel here today, guys. We had plenty of topics to discuss, even though we are now in the international break. We're going to be talking today about Hansi Flick's rules, his discipline and his offside trap. We're going to be talking about Robert Lewandowski and Barca's forward trio this season, and as well, my thoughts on Luis Enrique's controversial words on Xavi's football as Barcelona coach. All of that is on the way today, so let's do it. But I do want to start here, guys, with a special super thanks shout out right here, because this is somebody who's been a really big fan of the channel. Very, very kind words indeed, and they say they're going through a low spot right now, but the videos give me my daily smile, so really, really appreciate those words, and just hoping that things do get better for you there. Keep smiling as much as you possibly can, and big thank you, guys, for all of the super thanks support coming in. And I actually want to start here today with another emotional moment, because Andres Iniesta has officially announced today his retirement from the game at the age of 40 there. He held a press conference, many of the Barcelona players, indeed Hansi Flick as well, Joan Laporta, all in attendance to celebrate a simply legendary career at the top level. It's as simple as that right there. And when I speak about Iniesta, guys, it's hard to actually sum up, what it is about him that made him so special. No highlight can do him justice there. No goal can even sum up what Iniesta brought to a football field. And this is somebody who scored in major moments. Of course, the World Cup final, winning goal there for Spain, their first ever World Cup. That will go down in history. And of course, there's moments there like the last-minute winner against Chelsea in the Champions League to take us through. And what followed there was historic. But it wasn't about any of that. This is a player here who you had to feel what he brought to a game. The way that he carried himself on the pitch there, the way that he manoeuvred his body, the ball, everything just glued together. He is one of the best dribblers I have ever seen. And he made it look so easy. He made it look so good. And he was always the man for the big occasion. If there was a big game, if there was a big match, a big moment, you wanted Iniesta out there. You wanted him to be at the heart of it, because he still remains the only man in history to receive a man of the match in a World Cup final, in a Euro final, and in a Champions League final. And he is definitely, for me, among my favourite players ever. Simple as that. I would say probably top 3 of my favourite ever players, because he was a joy to watch. He is what football should represent. He is what football should mean. It was art in its purest form, and I will miss him. I really, really will. I know, of course, he left Barca many years ago now, but his spirit in the game, the best thing about it, though, is that he's actually going to go into coaching, and that fills me there with real excitement there, because I think, of course, that incredible footballing mind that he had, the way that he used to see things before anybody else, I'm sure you can use that in coaching. I'm sure that he can certainly use that wisdom and put it to good use, and I want to see his next step in the game here, and I'll be rooting for him every step of the way. Long live Andres Iniesta. However, guys, if we do move on now to somebody who actually is only a few years younger than Iniesta, Robert Lewandowski at 36 years old. And I would just like to say on him, why is nobody talking about it right now? Outside of Barca, the goals that he's scoring right now, the start of the season that he's had, we heard non-stop about Erling Haaland. When he was in the Premier League there this season, how quickly he reached 10 league goals. Well, Lewandowski's reached 10 now in La Liga. And the thing about all of this is, like I say, he's 36. He is doing extraordinary things, especially at his age. And I think the man is owed some credit here. I think he deserves some appreciation from the wider media, because especially when you factor in the fact that he's come off here a pretty difficult season for him last time out. Last year was a really rough one by Lewandowski's standards, and to still have the desire and the motivation and the will at 36 to bounce back, that's extraordinary right there. With everything that he's already achieved in his career, he's won everything, he's done everything, and still to say, no, I'm not done yet. I can bounce back. I can show people that I can still bring something. And look at what he's doing. And of course, a massive part of that, like we've said, is all about Hansi Flick. And I thought it was really interesting to see there the goal ratio under each coach that Lewandowski has had throughout his illustrious career. And as you can see right there, Hansi Flick, he's actually played more games under him than nearly every other coach on that list. And yet, the ratio is so far clear at the top. That is absolutely unbelievable. Flick he knows how to use Robert Lewandowski, that is for sure. And you will notice there that Xavi is a long, long way down that list there, coming in at number 7, not too far above him, Pep Guardiola. So as you can see, maybe Lewandowski not really suited to that kind of build-up play. Maybe being more isolated. Of course, Pep Guardiola, even during his career until right now, he's not always enjoyed using a typical number 9. And Xavi there certainly failed to get the best out of Lewandowski. Those two did not really work out like we hoped, like we expected together. But I think what I really want to see now from Lewandowski, and what I think can take him to the next level and to get that proper appreciation, it's these big games to come. I want to see Robert Lewandowski, and I would love to see him score in El Clasico, deliver there against Real Madrid, and I would equally love to see him score against his old club, to actually put a few goals there past Bayern Munich. I'm sure he would love that. I am sure he is absolutely gunning for that, and that is what he has to be focusing on now, and that is what we all want to see from him. But I would just say as well, guys, it's not actually just about Robert Lewandowski this season, because that's the thing about him. He does need service, he does need players there around him, he needs runs around him, and that is what Flick has been able to provide. And I want to talk about the front three, because they have been unbelievable as a trio. The way they've connected, they've gone to another level under Hansi Flick, and as you can see right here, across world football, it doesn't get better than our front line right now, with Lewandowski, with Raphinha, with Lamine Yamal. Again, they're comfortably clear of every other trio in the world right now, and we've got to celebrate that. We have to understand what we have here, what we're actually creating at this club. This is special. We've got some absolutely incredible players at our disposal, and Flick is achieving this. But I was trying in my head this morning to come up with some sort of acronym. You know, what can we say for Raphinha, Lewandowski, Yamal? How can we combine those names? And really the best that I've come up with is really, because a lot of the media have been asking of Barca this season, are you really back? Are you really going to continue this? Are you really going to keep on scoring these goals? And my answer is yes. Really? With Raphinha, with Lewandowski, and with Yamal. Now, speaking though, guys, about Hansi Flick and his incredible work this season, one of the most notable things, really, that he's brought to Barca, we've spoken about it a great deal, it's all about that high line. It's all about the amount of risk that we take on with that structure. It pushes us up the field as a team. It allows us, really, to concentrate on the opposition's half. That's what it does. We are playing our football in the opposition's half of the field, and we're making sure at all times that line is really, really high. And just look what we're doing. We spoke about it against Alaves there. We caught them offside 11 times in the match. Look at this in La Liga this season. We have drawn 61 offsides. That is absolutely extraordinary. That is more than double the next best team at doing that there. Osasuna, Athletic Club. Absolutely unbelievable numbers. And yeah, it's risky, you know. Yeah, it can be a high-risk strategy, but we are pulling it off. We are actually here executing the perfect game plan under Hansi Flick. But as we do keep on saying, the biggest tests are to come. We are going to see that high line tested to its maximum against Real Madrid, against Bayern Munich. We know that. Flick knows that. The players know that. But I think it's only going to get better with more of an understanding, with more confidence in this system. Suddenly you're thinking, we've got this. We know what we're doing. We know that if we keep that line straight, if we step up at the right times, if we are all together, we can make this work against anybody. And every single game that we win, every single time that we use this kind of system effectively, that confidence is growing, that belief, the understanding in what Flick is trying to bring, it's all happening. It is all coming together, and ahead of those big games to come, we can feel as though we're in the right position. However, guys, it is not just about the tactical side there that Hansi Flick has improved at Barcelona, because it also comes down to discipline. It comes down there to hard work. It comes down to understanding what is expected of every single Barcelona player, what Flick is demanding from each of them, and that they feel as though they have to deliver it. Because I want to point out something he did there on the weekend. We've all heard about it right now in the media. Why Koundé did not start the game. It wasn't actually about rotation. He simply didn't start because he didn't arrive on time to the pre-match talk. He was actually late there for that meeting, and Flick said, okay, you were late, we've spoken about punctuality, and so you know the rules. you won't start this game. And now, Flick didn't reveal that in his press conference there. This has actually come out in the media, so I don't want to make here a big song and dance about it. He didn't, so I won't either. But all that I will say is, the fact that it was Koundé who actually missed out there on match day, I think it makes it more significant. I think this makes it even more impressive to see the discipline and the way that Flick is applying it, because we know he loves Koundé. We know that he is one of his favourite players at Barca. I'm sure that he didn't want to leave him out. I'm sure there that he wanted him to be in the team for yet another game. He's played every single minute, and he even brought him on later in the game to only highlight that. But to actually do this then with someone like Koundé, it shows these rules, they apply to everybody, because it's easy sometimes for new coaches to come into a club and they actually single out maybe a rotational player, somebody who's on the bench, somebody maybe who's a bit younger in the squad who doesn't really hold much weight, and they make an example of them to the rest of the squad because it's easy. They're an easy target. But look at what he's done here. He's done it with somebody who he loves, somebody there like Jules Koundé, and think about what the dressing room will be thinking. Think about the kind of message that sends out. These rules, they apply to everybody, and there will be no exceptions. However, guys, we must actually move on here today, away now from Hansi Flick, and actually go back to Xavi's time at Barca, because lots of people here often talk about Xavi, they often compare him here to Hansi Flick, and we have to talk about what we're doing better now compared with Xavi, but in my mind here, I don't actually like looking back that much, because in my mind, I can appreciate what Xavi brought to the club. I can appreciate here the foundations that he laid. Did I think that it was time for change? Yes, I did. I thought that we could go with the players that we had to another level, but I don't think there's a real need here to look back and compare and actually say, oh, Flick does this better than Xavi. We can just say, Flick does that well. Flick does that absolutely brilliantly. I don't think we always need here to pit one against another and drag another one down. So that is why here, these Luis Enrique words, I don't really like what's happening here, because before the first leg, and it's all come out really in this documentary that's being aired here on Luis Enrique and PSG's season, before the first leg against Barca, he said the following words: Xavi's Barca doesn't have the ball, it doesn't dominate, he doesn't keep the ball in his 2 years as Barca coach. He said if that happened in my time, we would end up impaled. He said, good grief, how history changes there. So Luis Enrique in the dressing room ahead of the game against Barca, he was very, very critical of Xavi's style of play and basically said, look, if I did that in my time, you'd never hear the end of it. So already there, I think in those words, you can hear some frustration seeping in from Luis Enrique, maybe on different kinds of treatment. But then, of course, remember that Barca went to PSG in the Champions League, and they actually won. Raphinha, massive part of that. That's when he started his real explosion at the end of the season. And we beat PSG in Paris. Now, after that game, I think Luis Enrique was even more angry. He said, you're only conditioned by the result. He said, if you leave here with the feeling that Barca was better, it's false. Barca has dedicated themselves to only playing long balls. He said, if you're pro-Xavi, you say, oh, he uses the third man. But if you're a normal analyst, you say, they play with long balls. He is coaching like he's in charge at Eibar. He said they broke the record of 24 long balls in the game. With me, Barca played with DNA, but that was not the case under Xavi. Now, these are big words, and I think, again, guys, it's not really helpful. I don't think these documentaries here, where we hear everything that's being said, is really necessary, because obviously Luis Enrique now, he's coaching another club. He's away from Barca. We saw that when he celebrated, of course, the victory against us in the Champions League. He's got another job to do, and of course he's going to speak in the way that he thinks will inspire his players, motivate them, maybe trying to relax them against Barcelona to make them think, oh, they're not so scary as they may seem. We don't know the full meaning behind these words. But what I would say, though, guys, is, as much as I personally didn't enjoy the football under Xavi, especially during the end of his time, at the start, different story, but at the end of his time at Barca, the football was a massive problem. That was one of the reasons why I thought, you know what, we need something different. We need this team again to be re-energised, because it was tough to watch. It honestly was. But let me just say, even with that football, we did beat PSG in the first leg in the Champions League, and even with that football, I truly believe we would have done it again in the second leg. If it wasn't for the red card, we would have knocked them out, in my opinion here. So I think Luis Enrique, I think he's probably frustrated more so here because he doesn't feel that Xavi was treated in the same way that he was at Barça regarding the style of play. Because even when Luis Enrique won a Champions League title, a lot of people said, you know, it's not the true Barça. It's not true Barça DNA. We're playing more direct. We don't really enjoy that style. And I think Luis Enrique looks at Xavi and thinks, well, are you being treated in the same way? But he wasn't at the club when Xavi was there coaching, because if you remember, Xavi was sacked from Barça. He had a lot of criticism, and even despite some of the excellent things that he did, he still had to leave the club. So I think here Luis Enrique and Xavi, they both had their time at the club. They both had huge highlights, of course. They both did things to help us. And as players, they're legends, of course. Xavi more so than Luis Enrique as a player, but he still did great things at the club. And I just don't know why. Like I say, we need these documentaries, because at the end of the day, we don't need words like these flying around. We don't really need to be hitting out at each other, especially people that are closely connected with Barça. And I would be interested to see if Xavi responds to these words. I would be interested to know actually what his feeling is and what his genuine opinion was from his time at the club and the football that was played and the idea behind that, guys. But I want to know your thoughts. What do you think there of Luis Enrique's words on Xavi? What did you think of the football under Xavi, certainly towards the end of his time at the club? But also, what did you make of those games against PSG? And is Luis Enrique just a bit frustrated by that and maybe some of the different treatment that Xavi was to get from the club? So do let me know all of that in the comments down below. We will be talking lots more about lots of different topics throughout this international break, so stay tuned, guys. But thank you indeed here for watching today and for all of your great support. But until next time, as always, Visca, Barça.